All right, back with another one on Don't Believe Me, Read It For Yourself, and don't send me your money, keep it for yourself. So we'll let this car go by real fast. So I had a request for, finally, nobody has ever requested I do a video on something, so it's pretty neat. But they requested that I do a video on Jesus's crucifixion. So I'm going to do this in a few different segments, probably maybe two or three. Probably three. And I will start out by saying that Lee Strobel, who is a Chicago Tribune reporter, who's an avid atheist, then became slightly agnostic for a little bit. Now he's devout Christian. He studied this in detail because he wanted to prove to his wife, who was turned Christian, that it was a lie and Jesus didn't exist. And through his 2 years of study, he found it undeniable. The evidence, the historical evidence alone, undeniable. So I'm going to go through some of the non-theist, secular, atheist, if you will, views on it. And I'll start off by Richard Dawkins, who's one of the most prolific atheists alive today. He publicly speaks against Christianity a lot, even though he's just admitted that he would rather live in a Christian society than any kind of other society, because people who view themselves as Christians typically follow the laws, right? Follow the rules, treat people with respect, help out other people when nobody else will. So despite that, he and John Lennox had a debate. John Lennox is a PhD tenure physician at Oxford, holds multiple PhDs, and he and Richard Dawkins had a debate, and John Lennox called him out. And in one of Richard Dawkins's books, he said that Jesus didn't exist, and he said some scholars think that he didn't exist, and John Lennox called him out, and he admitted that he lied in his book about it, and that no legitimate scholar does not believe that Jesus existed. So obviously some of these atheist and agnostic historians, scholars, don't believe that he was God. They do not deny that he existed as a person. And then along with that, the historical evidence of that is there was many Roman leaders at the time who, in their writings, and Roman historians wrote about Jesus. So I'm going to read those today. So it's going to be the historical evidence first of Jesus, right? Before we get to the biblical references and the crucifixion itself. So with that, Pontius Pilate, who we know didn't want to crucify him, it's referenced throughout the Bible that he washed his hands of that and turned Jesus over to the Jews and said, I washed my hands of this. He's an innocent man. So the depiction of Pontius Pilate is very positive. Pilate described Jesus as a very pious person. He's the most pious person who ever existed. Pious means extremely religious, very moral, high morals. Essentially did what he, very revered. Nobody thought he was the sinner, and that he only had him executed because he feared the Jewish people and leaders at the time would have an uprising, and that Rome would have a decline. So according to the work and the letter sent by Tiberius, so Tiberius was the emperor at the time, and he was outraged that Jesus was killed under Pilate's watch. So Tiberius is enraged by Pilate's unjust sentence to Jesus, whom Tiberius had received reports of his amazing deeds in healing. Pilate, Herod, Achilles, Philip, Annas, Caiaphas, and Jewish leaders were to be arrested and brought to Rome. The soldiers also slay Jewish males for the crime for having Jesus executed. The Jewish leaders suffered horrific deaths, being beheaded, impaled, crucified, and squeezed to death themselves. The emperor personally kills Pilate as a part of the divinely guided hunting accident. Tiberius was attempting to shoot a hind with a bow, instead killed Pilate in his prison cell. His messengers sent to Galilee find the resurrected Jesus and confirm his divine power. He, his wife Procla, and Centurion Longius all convert to Christianity and affirm Christian teachings. Pilate described personally blessed by a vision of the Lord. There's a book called, written by James Keith Elliott in '93, The Apocryphal New Testament. Oxford University published it. And then also Bart Ehrman, The Other Gospel Accounts of Jesus from Outside the New Testament. Oxford University also published that one. Sorry, give me a second. Siphon through my notes here. Okay. Tacitus, one of the non-Christian writers of the time, also mentioned Jesus in early Christianity, along with Flavius Josephus, who is a famous historian, Pliny the Younger, and Suetonius, all describe Jesus. Tacitus provides non-Christian confirmation of the crucifixion of Jesus. Scholars view it as establishing 3 separate facts about Rome. Sorry, wind's blowing today. The notes are going everywhere. About Rome, that was a sizable number of Christians in Rome at the time, that it was possible to distinguish between Christians and Jews in Rome. At the time, pagans made a connection between Christianity in Rome and its origin to Roman Judea. Paul Eddy wrote this, The Jesus Legend, a case for historical reliability of the synoptic Jesus. And then James Dunn, Beginning from Jerusalem, Christianity, Volume 2. And then that's James Dunn wrote the book. The book is published in 2009, Beginning from Jerusalem, Christianity in the Making, Volume 2. Also, Robert Van Voorst, Jesus Outside the New Testament, An Introduction to the Ancient Evidence, is another book that was published in 2000. Okay, the extent manuscripts from the book of Antiquities of the Jews, written by the 1st century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus. He wrote this around 93 to 94 AD, so probably a year or two before John had Revelation. Contained 2 references to Jesus of Nazareth, and 1 reference to John the Baptist. Again, these are non-theist, atheist, Roman historians at the time. So it's not just a Christian lens. The first and most extensive reference to Jesus in the Antiquities book is found in Book 18, states that Jesus was the Messiah and a wise teacher who was crucified by Pontius Pilate. It's commonly called Testimony Flavian. Some atheist scholars refute this, so you have to look into it, read it for yourself. Modern scholarship has largely acknowledged the authenticity of the second reference to Jesus in the Antiquities found in Book 20, Chapter 9, which mentions the brother of Jesus who was called Christ, and Christ is the Messiah, whose name was James. So he talks about Jesus' half-brother James. Remember, James and Jude were Jesus' half-brothers from Mary and Joseph. This reference is considered to be more accepted, and that. So again, the book Paul Marr wrote about Flavius Josephus. It's Josephus, The Essential Works, a condensation of Jewish antiquities and the Jewish War. And then Luke Timothy Johnson in 2005 published The Letter of James, a new translation with introduction and commentary. So, it's very, it's undisputed between scholars, historians, atheistic theists, and agnostic and theists. Obviously, you're going to find Christian historians that agree with the account of Jesus, but everybody did. It's undeniable. Jesus existed. So now we're going to get into the next video on the biblical references, and then we'll also talk about the medical aspects of the crucifixion, along with the references from a trauma surgeon. So with that, don't read it. Don't believe me. Read it for yourself, and don't give me money. Keep it for yourself, or give it to the homeless. God bless you.